What's going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make Charlotte Hornets content, so if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 29th pick, Liam McNeeley. Now, we got this pick by trading Mark Williams for this pick in a 2029 Suns first, I believe, which is the worst. I think we get the worst pick between the Suns, Cleveland, and Minnesota that year. It's something like that. But still, another pick nonetheless. In very similar value. I mean, obviously, we're missing the Dalton Connect of that trade. But, I mean, with this draft, you can see, like, it kind of makes sense why we kind of went the way we did, considering we didn't get Dalton Connect. But still, I think pretty good return from Mark Williams. But we'll talk about that in another video. This video, we're obviously talking about Liam McNeeley, 6'7", freshman from UConn. So this is the thing. I personally am not very high on McNeeley. I mean, he was supposed to be like this shooter, and he really quite wasn't that at UConn. And UConn have used guys like Jordan Hawkins is the biggest one I think of, is, you know, how he was used, like coming off screens and moving off ball. Like Liam McNeeley shares a lot of those similar traits to me. Very, very similar. He just wasn't hitting, and he just felt a little uncomfortable. It felt like there was more that needed to be there, kind of there for his game to really, you know, show what he can do. But at the end of the day, I do feel like it will come around. I do believe in the shooting. I feel like it's going to come around. I just don't know, like, will it be good enough to justify a lot of his other weaknesses? Athleticism being one. Just his ability to kind of get to the rim. Like, there's a lot of things that I feel as though McNeeley could possibly work on. But at the end of the day, I mean, all these players have something to work on. I just don't know if I'm too high on, I wouldn't even say the fit, because I'm not looking to draft for fit right now. Like, we won 19 games. It's just more so I don't see how, I don't know. Okay, like, for example, I've always said, we got shooters, or we got guys who can shoot, but we need shooters. Got Liam McNeeley, who's supposed to be a shooter. Got Kon Knueppel, who I know for a fact will be a shooter, even though he wasn't my first choice. With Liam McNeeley, it just felt as though, as I mentioned, I didn't really feel like he could really get comfortable at UConn. He did have that injury. I think he shot a little better in conference play. I believe he shot like 35% in conference play compared to like his 32% in for the season. That doesn't tell the whole story. Like, 35% isn't even that much, but there was times he just missed an open shots, and I feel like he felt rushed a little bit. So it just felt like he never really could find his place. And I think it was just maybe too much movement, because that's what they did with Jordan Hawkins. As I mentioned, he came off a lot of screens, and just there was a lot of actions ran for him to get open, and he cashed those. With Liam McNeeley, it just didn't feel as authentic and just didn't feel as natural to him. But a lot of the things that made Jordan Hawkins so lethal coming off those screens and moving off ball, I think Liam McNeeley shares a lot of those traits. It's just something in the middle between him moving and like the catch and then him shooting. It's just something off there. But I could see how it could work for the Hornets if they could kind of just put him, I wouldn't necessarily say in the corner because he's so good at moving off ball, but just letting LaMelo do what LaMelo does, creating space, moving the defense. Boom, find McNeeley moving off a screen. We obviously need to find a screen, someone to set those screens, because we don't have a center. Well, we have Musa and Nurkic right now, so we don't have a center as much as I like Musa. But yeah, so we need to find someone to set those screens. I think that's going to be huge. I think that's going to be very, very huge in what we're going to do. I don't think that you can pick up a center that is not setting very good, solid, legal screens. Because if you don't, I think all of this falls apart. So it's just going to be very important that they do that. And I almost would value like the level in which that center can set screens over just his overall performance. Because that is really going to open up this team and give them a shot. Because looks like what we're doing here. We're going to just take all the threes. But yeah, as for McNeeley, I think obviously the biggest thing is that you want the shooting to come around. I like him in terms of a competitor. Like, he's the kind of guy I like. I've mentioned this before. Like, normally I go for guys like VJ Edgecombe, who like is seen as this like defensive competitor, and he's not saying Liam McNeeley is anywhere near VJ Edgecombe, but those are the kind of guys I usually go for. Like, I like that competitive edge, and then, you know, we can work with the rest. But McNeeley, even though he has that competitive edge, I don't know where the rest comes from. I think he's a pretty good rebounder. I think he averages like 6 rebounds a game, which is something that we need to do because we're a team that, you know, team rebounds. We don't necessarily, it's not the way we play, the way we get rebounds. It's not necessarily our center getting 15 rebounds and everybody else has 3. Like, no, we have games with LaMelo with 7, Miles Bridges with 14, Brandon Miller with 8. Like, that's just kind of how we do it. So him being able to contribute in that way, I think is going to be big. Because that's something I really liked about Ace was that, offensive potential and then the way he can get rebounds. I think that was something that was really underestimated with Ace. It's just how good of a rebounder he is. So Liam McNeeley does kind of have that underrated rebounding ability, just obviously not at the rate of Ace Bailey, but still I think it's there. He's gonna play hard. He's gonna get open. It's just a matter of him hitting. I would like to see him once again get to the rim more. It's not like he really has any moves, and it's not like he really has his own creation. So there are things I worry about that, but I feel as though he will thrive with having someone like LaMelo Ball. As much as I would have preferred like Rasheer Fleming, Noah Penda, Maxime Renault, maybe even Ryan Kalkbrenner. I can see. This is just how I'm going to put it. I would prefer this front office and this coaching staff to go out swinging in what they believe in instead of trying to do something they don't. It's going to suck. I may not even agree with everything they do, but at the end of the day, there will be no questions of whether, they didn't have this guy and they didn't have this. No, like, you're literally building what you want. It does kind of make me wonder about, like, last year with Tajon. I feel as though it makes that draft a little even more questionable. But still, I'd rather them go out swinging. Do what you do. If this is how you see it, then by all means build it this way. But you got to hit. Like, you got to have this work in some capacity. I don't need Liam McNeeley to become the greatest 3-point shooter ever, but I need him to be solid and I need him to provide something else. But as we continue to talk about McNeeley, I can see where it can work. It's just I needed to be a little more consistent. One thing about him, he doesn't get to the free throw line. As you can see, his free throw rate is in the 58th percentile. He only 41%. He doesn't turn the ball over, which I think is good. He is good handling. He has good connective passing, and that's one thing that So this is the thing. Right now with the finals, the finals are over, but with the finals, we saw a lot of guys that they quick decision makers, connective playmakers, could handle the ball a little bit and play defense. Liam McNeeley and Kon are quick decision makers, supposedly can shoot and handle the ball and pass. They're missing the defense part, even though I think Kon has higher defensive upside than most people believe, but still. So we have that part figured out. I think we just need to figure out the defensive part of that. That's where I'm thinking Thiero, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, from Arkansas. Will he be a good part in this? Rasheer Fleming, as I mentioned. Jameer Watkins, Javon Small. Who else I'm thinking of? There's some other guys as well. I think that, they might not be so great offensively, but we're trusting McNeeley and Kon, our first round picks, to do that. All right, now let's get like the rough, rugged second round guys, because that's what OKC did. That's what the Pacers did. A lot of those guys, they have played at rough defense. Of course, some of them are lottery picks, but some of them are just guys that fell in the second round or late first round or something like that. So if you prioritize that, it makes me feel a lot better about this, just because of the fact that he adds a lot of creativity offensively in terms of just us being able to run screens for him. Like, he can be able to set a screen, pick and pop, and I love to see that with LaMelo. He has size, so just because he's not this great defender, his size alone is going to be enough. And I think he has like a 6'8" wingspan, so he's just not going to be necessarily a punk. And he plays with this aggressiveness that I think that a lot of people on our team lack. It's just that he doesn't have the physical ability to be the guys to guard you 90 feet up the court. But still, either way, I'm just iffy about the pick. I see how it makes all the sense in the world if we want to be perfect and think about the system and the scheme and just how much they can thrive. Like, specifically McNeeley can thrive off having someone like LaMelo, because they didn't have that at UConn. So how much McNeeley can possibly thrive just being in a more like spot up guy instead of like this movement shooter. I really believe that there's something there, and I believe that it could hit, because it's really just. I think it's just more mental after a while, especially after his injury, especially just after the fit with UConn just might not be the way he kind of was hoping it would be. But he was a 5-star recruit for a reason. He was look at his high school film. He was a dynamic off the ball shooter, the same way Trey Johnson was. So there's something there. I think it's just up to this team to find it. If they want to be the development staff, then by all means find it. Do I love the pick? Not necessarily. Like I said, I could see how it works, like technically X's and O's wise, which I guess is good to finally talk about X's and O's. But at the end of the day, I do feel like there's still some defensive things we need to focus on. There's still some paint touches we need to focus on, and obviously the center position. I'll say this: I think the center position should be handled through a veteran of some sort. I don't necessarily want to have to use one of those two picks on a center, and then I think what we should focus on is the maybe like high potential second round, maybe defensive stalwart prospects. I think that's where we should look after drafting Kon and Liam McNeeley. We'll see. But if they're trying to build a team like the Boston Celtics, which is so obvious that that's what they're doing. And it was obvious from day one. If they're trying to do that, but then like build it in the sense of the way OKC built their team, then I would highly, highly expect them to make this type of first round. This is very typical of what you're trying to accomplish. And then, all right, now we're loading up on high potential in a way of you give them a role, they're going to excel at it. That's kind of what I mean by high potential. High potential physical guys, because we still don't have a point of attack defender. Wouldn't want that to be Brandon Miller. And we still just don't have guys to kind of be like another Miles. Miles is talked about as being the next trade candidate, which I think he would. If anyone would on this team were to get traded of significance, it would be Miles. What are you going to do for that? Because I don't think, I still believe Miles is a small ball four. Doesn't necessarily matter because like the East is weak and there's a lot of other things going on with this team that we should focus on. But I think you should have a predecessor to Miles because, his deals, he got 2 years left on his deal. You have Grant Williams who's coming back from an injury. And I know that, his game's not athleticism based, but still at the end of the day, I would like somebody to kind of be in that role. And I think that like guys that I've mentioned could be that. So, I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are on McNeeley down in the comment section below. Overall, I think he raises the floor of this team. There is a little more of a project here than with Kon, but I feel as though you kind of know what you're getting into. There's not like this for McNeeley. I think he's shown you everything he is. It's just a matter of making it more efficient. I don't think he becomes anything more than what he is right now. And if he does, if you think, oh, I didn't expect him to do this, it's just more so you weren't just that familiar. Because I think everybody familiar with him knows what he can do well and sees the vision. The thing is having belief that it will get there. And I don't know. I don't know. It's literally this staff's job to do that. That's what they were brought in here for. Would I have liked to see them use that for Trey Johnson and Ace Bailey? Of course. But at the same time, you have guys who have high floors, and if you can make them to be the most optimal version of themselves, these are no doubt NBA helpful players that could play significant minutes in a playoff game. It's just a matter of them getting there. But yeah, those are my thoughts on McNeeley. Overall, I think he moves up all well, good connective passer, plays with effort, plays with passion, good rebounder, doesn't foul too much, doesn't turn over the ball too much. Just a very, very, I would say reserved player, but those are the kind of players that you need off the bench. We don't need like wild cards, especially when you're trying to be a good team. So I would like to think that this draft points us in the direction of winning. You're doing everybody a disservice if you put Kon Knueppel out there and Liam McNeeley. I don't think they're going to play too many minutes together unless injuries, but I don't want to see Liam McNeeley playing 20 games without LaMelo Ball. I don't want to see Kon Knueppel playing 20, 30 games without LaMelo Ball or Brandon Miller. Like, I don't think you can do that. If they're really, really hurt, then fine. But this whole like trying to play the lottery and tanking thing, I don't know. You will be doing your previous first round picks talking about Kon and McNeeley. You'll be doing them a great disservice if you go out there and only win 20 games. Because LaMelo didn't play. If LaMelo plays and we just win 20 games, then so be it. We just suck. Fine. It's part of the process. But purposely tanking or sitting guys out and then having these guys just go out. No, because their most optimal selves come from playing off guys. Like they feed off these guys. And it just makes them better. And they're not trying to get their own. They're not trying to do their own thing. They're literally there to support the star. That's how they play. That's literally how they play. So being able to work with that and have LaMelo, Brandon, whoever, Trey Mann even there, I think is going to really help us see what these guys can be. But I feel like these are win now moves. I know people may say the 2026 draft, which I think there's still room there to be, made as far as us getting a top pick in there. But I don't know. I just don't see how you make this draft and then say let's only win 20 games next year. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.